The man who walked into the Grand Regent Hotel that evening looked like someone the world had forgotten. His jacket was worn at the sleeves. His shoes carried the dust of a long journey. And the quiet way he stepped across the polished marble floor made him almost invisible among the well-dressed guests sitting beneath the warm chandelier lights. A few people glanced at him for a moment before returning to their conversations. To them, the Grand Regent Hotel was a place for a certain kind of person. Someone polished. Someone wealthy. Someone who looked like they belonged. And the tired traveler walking through the lobby clearly did not. But what none of them realized was that the quiet man they were judging was actually Daniel Whitaker, a billionaire investor whose companies employed thousands of people across the United States. And before the night was over, one small act of kindness would change everything. Daniel Whitaker had not always been wealthy. Years earlier, he had been a young man struggling to survive in a small industrial town outside Cleveland. He worked long nights repairing broken machinery inside a noisy warehouse that smelled of oil and metal. The pay was barely enough to cover rent, and many nights he wondered if the dreams he carried were unrealistic. But Daniel had something that could not be measured in money: patience, determination, and a belief that character mattered more than appearances. Over the years, his small repair business slowly grew. One contract led to another. One opportunity became two. And before long, Daniel Whitaker had built an empire of logistics companies, technology systems, and real estate investments that quietly shaped industries across the country. Yet despite his success, Daniel never forgot what it felt like to be judged before anyone knew his story. That was why, several times a year, he traveled anonymously. No assistants. No expensive suits. No announcement of his arrival. He would simply walk into businesses connected to his investments and observe how people treated someone who appeared to have nothing. Because Daniel believed something important. The true character of a place is revealed by how it treats the people who seem unimportant. That belief was exactly why he had arrived at the Grand Regent Hotel that evening. Daniel stepped up to the reception desk. The receptionist glanced at him briefly before her eyes moved quickly to the worn edges of his jacket and the dust on his shoes. Her polite smile faded slightly. Daniel spoke calmly. "Excuse me, is the restaurant still open tonight?" But before he finished the sentence, she had already made her decision. The dining room, she explained, maintained a formal dress code. Guests were expected to arrive in proper attire. Then she added something else. There were several casual restaurants across the street that might be more suitable. A few guests nearby quietly smiled. One man near the bar leaned toward his friend and whispered something while glancing at Daniel. Soft chuckles followed. Daniel stood there silently. Not angry, not embarrassed, just quietly disappointed. He had seen moments like this many times before. He thanked the receptionist politely and turned toward the exit doors. To everyone in the lobby, it seemed like the situation was over. A tired traveler had simply walked into the wrong place. But just as Daniel took a few steps toward the door, a gentle voice spoke from behind him. "Excuse me, sir, if you'd like, I can find you a table." Daniel turned around. Standing beside a small cleaning cart was a woman wearing the simple housekeeping uniform of the hotel staff. Her name was Clara Martinez. For nearly 6 years, Clara had worked quietly inside the Grand Regent Hotel. Most guests never noticed her. She cleaned rooms, restocked supplies, and spent long hours making sure other people enjoyed comfortable stays. The job was not glamorous, but Clara carried something many people in more visible positions lacked: kindness. She had overheard the conversation at the reception desk, and what she saw was simple: a tired traveler asking politely for a meal, in a room full of people who had already decided he didn't belong. Clara didn't know the name Daniel Whitaker. She didn't know he was a billionaire. None of that mattered. She simply pointed toward the restaurant. "There's a quiet table near the window," she said kindly. "It's still available if you'd like." The lobby grew unusually quiet. Guests exchanged confused glances. The receptionist looked surprised that a maid had stepped into the situation. But Clara wasn't challenging anyone. She was simply offering respect. Daniel followed her into the dining room. She adjusted a chair for him and stepped back politely. For a moment, Daniel simply looked at her. Then he smiled. "Thank you," he said softly. "That means more than you probably realize." Clara just nodded. To her, it had been a simple gesture. But the evening was far from over. A few minutes later, the restaurant manager approached the table. His expression carried the controlled politeness of someone preparing to correct a mistake. He explained that the restaurant had policies regarding guest attire, and unfortunately those guidelines needed to be respected. The implication was clear. Daniel Whitaker was being asked to leave. Daniel listened quietly. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and placed his phone on the table. He made a short call. Hello? Yes, I've arrived at the Grand Regent. That's correct. I'm already inside. The call lasted less than 10 seconds. The manager waited awkwardly. Guests nearby watched curiously. Then suddenly the doors at the front of the restaurant opened. A man hurried inside, scanning the room until his eyes landed on Daniel. It was Thomas Reynolds, the regional owner responsible for overseeing several luxury properties in the city, including the Grand Regent Hotel. When he reached Daniel's table, his expression changed instantly. He extended his hand respectfully. Mr. Whitaker, I'm so sorry the staff wasn't informed about your arrival. The entire restaurant fell silent. The manager froze. The receptionist in the lobby stared in disbelief. And the guests who had quietly laughed earlier now sat speechless. The man they had dismissed as a dusty traveler was actually Daniel Whitaker, one of the most influential investors connected to the hotel itself. The following morning, the atmosphere inside the Grand Regent Hotel felt very different. Several employees were called into a meeting with the management team. Daniel Whitaker was there, but he had not returned for revenge. He didn't demand anyone be fired. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he asked a simple question. What is the name of the woman who offered me a table last night? A moment later, the office door opened. Clara Martinez stepped inside, looking confused. She had no idea why she had been called into the meeting. When she saw Daniel, recognition crossed her face. Daniel smiled warmly. He thanked her again for the kindness she had shown him. Then he explained something important. True hospitality, he said, is not about luxury or appearance. It's about respect. And the only person in the entire hotel who remembered that was Clara. Then Daniel shared the decision he had already made. Through one of his foundations, he would personally sponsor Clara's education in hospitality management. The program would provide professional training, mentorship, and a path toward leadership within the hotel industry. Clara stood frozen. She had arrived at work expecting another ordinary day. Instead, she was being offered a future she had never imagined. All because of one small act of kindness. The world often judges people in seconds. By their clothes. By their appearance. By what they seem to represent. Inside the Grand Regent Hotel that evening, nearly everyone made the same mistake. Except one person. Clara Martinez didn't know Daniel Whitaker's wealth. She didn't know his influence. She simply chose kindness when it would have been easier to stay silent. And sometimes, that is all it takes to change someone's life. Now imagine you had been standing in that lobby that night. Would you have stepped forward the way Clara did? Or would you have stayed silent like everyone else? Tell us in the comments below. And if stories like this remind you how powerful small acts of kindness can be, make sure you subscribe for more real-life stories that reveal the true character of ordinary people. Because sometimes, the smallest moment of kindness can change everything.